I was fortunate enough to have watched Generation RX. It's a movie by Kevin P. Miller, and this movie is downright frightening, and it's something that I think we don't know enough about, and we're in denial about on many levels. The first section of the movie deals with psychotropic medications that are given to people who are labeled with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or different types of mental illness. And the approach of the doctors in this day and age, some doctors, not all, is to basically permanently change their brain chemistry. And this is something which is has had virtually, and doctors will admit to you, there's virtually no results with their method. There's something that you're going to have to keep doing and keep adjusting, and there's no promises, and you're never going to really get better. The second part of the film is the one I want to talk about because it's I'm a big believer that I don't really care what happens to me personally, as long as the next generation somehow looks better. The second part of this chapter 2, it's called, of this movie, is about Ritalin and how it's been prescribed in this country for many, many years without any known positive side effects. They did a study, I think in Oregon, it says, that they tested, are these kids performing better in school after they get their Ritalin? And the answer is a conclusive no. And what they do find is people commit suicide off this drug. People become different. Their personalities become different. They gain weight. They become different people. And this is true with many psychiatric medications. This movie does an excellent job of scientifically showing you, and there are many doctors interviewed in the movie and many studies cited, why these things are so harmful and so dangerous. I just want to give my own understanding of why what he's doing is so important, and how we as a society can change the way we view this issue of what they call mental illness or kids that have too much energy. Okay, it was never the intent of God and man that you should send your child to a school, a public school, and put him in front of the television and pray to God that he turns out okay. Rather, having a child is a responsibility upon every single parent, that parent has to instill within the child certain values, certain morals, and make sure that the child has certain behaviors that he turns out okay. Nowadays, we see parents, because of the economy and the way the society is set up, both parents usually have to work. And their work, they love complaining about it. They don't have any energy when they get home. It's so hard. They don't have time for the children. And in public schools, instead of paying public school teachers $100,000, $200,000 a year so we get the real geniuses in the classroom, because unfortunately in capitalism the only thing that motivates is money, we pay them, considering the hours they put into their classroom, close to minimum wage. And we expect they're going to be dedicated. And they're going to love every single child as if they were their own, because that's really the only way a teacher will ever be successful. If she's able or he's able to look at every single child in their classroom, be it 20, be it 15, be it 25, and say, this is like my own child. Instead, because again, we're a capitalist society and the only motivating thing we have is money, these people just simply, especially after a couple years, it wears on them. They don't have the energy. And when a child starts acting up right away, now it's just very easy. Take him to the school psychologist, and let's see if maybe there's problems at home. And let's see if maybe we can't get him on some kind of drug that will numb his mind to the point where he's not the same person, but at least he's not acting up in class. And the same lack of responsibility on the teacher's end is now is first and foremost on the parent's end. Parent raises the child is too rambunctious, has too much energy. Children like to get up early in the morning, and unfortunately now it's watch TV. Used to be run around. A parent gets annoyed by this too many times. A child, God forbid, does something wrong, which it's actually the job of children to do things wrong once in a while, and it's just simply our job to educate them as to why we think what they did was wrong, and how we think they can make better decisions in the future. But this is part of being a child, is making mistakes. And then, instead of dealing with the children and the issues that are in their home, because anytime you're judging your child, just understand you're judging yourself ultimately. These parents run to the psychiatrist and they want to numb out the psyche of their children. They say this appropriately in the movie. This is nothing short of child abuse. Giving these types of drugs to children is nothing short of child abuse. You're taking away their youth. You're taking away their innocence. You're making them zombies they were never meant to be. They're no longer going to be human. It says that these drugs attack the frontal lobes. And from the frontal lobes come all types of things like judgments and emotions and feelings and thoughts that make us human, basically. And your approach is going to be to take that away. Guess what? You're not going to be raising a child. You're going to be raising a robot. You're going to be raising a zombie who's going to resent you and hate you forever. Besides the fact he's never going to be a real human being. Now, this is something that's so scary, because when they look at, not only does it not have any good effects, the section on Ritalin says, but there's many suicides committed because of Ritalin. And many violent acts because of these types of drugs in general. It cites something like there were 13, they counted instances where students ran in and shot their teachers or shot students. 8 of them, they were on some kind of drug, prescribed drugs. This is something that, in my opinion, does not get enough press because, again, because we're in a capitalist society and money talks and money is king. There's a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry. It might be in the trillions, I'm not sure. And the government refuses to shut it down. Meanwhile, and this is devoid where I don't want to make it seem like the movie's very big on this, all drugs seem to be bad according to the view of the movie maker. In my own personal opinion, meanwhile, strangely enough, the plant of marijuana, the chemical compound synthesized back in the late 30s and first used in the early 40s of LSD, MDMA, these things, psilocybin, remain illegal without any known medical... marijuana now they know has medical benefits, but it's still illegal for the average person. In my opinion, and this is something we discuss on forums like Hip Forums, if you've never been on that website, it's a great website. It's just simply part of the government trying to keep us intellectually enslaved. If we knew really what was going on in the government and in the society around us, you know, and even Jefferson writes that a little rebellion once in a while is a healthy thing. We've become Prozac'd out. We get depressed, we take a pill thinking it's going to help us. This is not how you deal with reality. You don't take pills to deal with reality. And unfortunately, you know, this point goes back to the preamble of the Constitution of all men are created equal. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Nothing can be further from the truth, and I'll just give you a simple example physically. If all men are created equal, we would all look the same. That's what that statement should mean if it's taken literally. You know, in this country, the Constitution is held in very high regard. No, we would look the same, we would talk the same, we would think the same, we would act the same. That's what it would mean if all men are created equally. You look at this planet, nothing can be further from the truth. With the exception of identical twins, no one even looks the same. And twins do not talk the same or think the same, generally speaking, unless they train themselves to do so. The beauty of the human experience is our individuality. That's the spice of life, is that everyone's different. And we're supposed to be different. If someone has a different energy level than you, instead of being scared of it, why don't you come to embrace it and understand that that's what he's supposed to be. Too much, too low. Another thing that's lost in this society is the fact that on the spectrum of emotions, there's positive and negative. And you learn just as much from the negative as you do from the positive. Part of life is you will have negative thoughts. You will have negative emotions. If you're not happy with that, then would you like it better, not that we can choose to not have positive ones? Because it's a package deal of the human being. It says here they did a study once that basically these drug companies were looking to a new market. They wanted to expand their precious poisonous product. And they said, what about children? That's currently untapped. Imagine they're targeting our children. This is, again, nothing short of child abuse. And this is something that's going to make the next generation, the point of the film, one of the points they make is, if you're going to drug the children instead of letting them deal with the fact that their dog died in a mature way, if you're going to drug them, how are they going to come to deal with real crises in their life? Like losing a job, losing a spouse, losing a parent, losing a child, God forbid. If when their dog dies, you label them with quote-unquote depression, you give them a Prozac, what's going to happen when they have real crisis in their life? A real turmoil? How are they supposed to mature? How are they supposed to grow? How are they supposed to become real people? We're not created the same, and the artist is negative emotions. And I would invite everyone to get a copy of this film. I'll try to see with him where it's available, and watch it. And I will also further encourage him to make another film on the horrific experiences people have in psych wards. For many stories from people, these places are just, you're not even treated like a citizen. And it's never a cure. It's only what they do is they overdrug you, so that you're a zombie when you leave, and then they claim that they've healed you. And the psychiatrist hopefully takes you off these things altogether, or not at all, depending on how warped their version of how good these medicines are. Something that I think we could discuss forever and ever, and I welcome any and all comments. But I will correct all the misfacts, and I'll put hopefully very useful links on the side. Thank you so much, and God bless.